you doing, Dan?
Whoa. All of a sudden, my ear just went.
Yep.
Very cool, dude.
Yeah. So how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing great.
Good. Guys, thank you for being here. We appreciate you showing up to these live workshops that Steve and I are doing for you. We are currently doing the Creative Soloing Workshop Series. It'll be available for you in a playlist in case you missed any of the previous sessions. You can go back and check that out on the YouTube channel. Just click on playlist and it'll be there for you. It's called Creative Soloing. All of these workshops that we're doing, guys, are from Steve's new course. It's called Creative Soloing by Steve Stine, and it's available at guitarzoom.com. So if you enjoy this, if you like to learn how to make how to make more creatives, how to make your guitar solos sound more creative, more musical, more inspiring, more dynamic, then keep watching. I hope you'll enjoy this. And if you want to learn it even faster, you can get Steve's new course, Creative Soloing by Steve Stine at guitarzoom.com. If somebody could put guitarzoom.com in the comments, that would be super helpful to folks who are new and don't know us. I'm Dan Denley, founder of GuitarZoom. This is my good friend, Steve Stine. And today we're talking about arpeggios for creative soloing. Arpeggios, which are kind of intimidating sometimes to folks. Steve's going to break it down to you in a really simple way that's easy to understand. And hopefully you'll get a lot out of this session today. If you have any comments, please put them over there. And also tell us where you're from. That's always fun for Steve and I to see where you guys are from. And if you have any questions, pop them over there and we'll try to help you as best we can. So go ahead, my friend. Where do we take it from here?
Okay. Well, basically, again, from the creative soloing aspect of arpeggios, some people don't know all their theories. So they don't always necessarily know the root, the third, the fifth, and all that sort of thing. So again, if we're visualizing the scale patterns on our fretboard, we can come up with some really great stuff. So what I'm going to do is just start off by showing you kind of a logical arpeggio that really does follow the rules, follow the guidelines of music theory, and then we're going to kind of go off from there, and I'm going to show you how to visualize it from a patternized perspective. So let's say, for instance, again, we're looking at E minor, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play an E minor arpeggio using the root, the third, and the fifth, if you know what that is. And if you don't, it's okay, all right? Because you can use the things I show you, and you're going to be able to visualize the patterns that I show you as well. So let's say we put our pinky on the 7th fret of the 5th string, and we go from there to the 5th fret of the next string, and the 4th fret of the next string. So right there, we're playing the root, the 3rd, and the 5th of an E minor chord. And again, if you don't know what that means, it's okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that same idea and I'm going to slide into a new position, and I'm going to play those same notes again. I'm playing the 9th fret of the 3rd string, the 8th fret of the 2nd string, and the 7th fret of the 1st string. And it sounds quite nice. And then I'm going to end that by heading up to the 12th fret of the 1st string. So I'm playing the root, the 3rd, the 5th, the root, the 3rd, the 5th, and then the root all over again. Okay? And that in itself makes for a great little pattern that you could learn. For me, it's just not colorful enough. It's just playing the root, 3rd, and 5th. So what I want to do is I want to make it a little more colorful. So if I do this, if I take the first part of that pattern, which was the E and the G and the B, and what I'm going to do is from there, I'm going to think that 2-1-2 pattern idea that I talked about in the last workshop. I'm going to start implementing that 2-1-2 concept into this arpeggio. So I'm going from here to here to here, and for now we've got a single note here and a single note here, and then when I get to the 4th fret here, I'm going to add on my pinky at the 7th fret, and we've got ourselves a nice fresh new note. So I'm now playing 2 notes on that string. Then I'm going to head over here, and I'm going to play the 5th fret of the 2nd string. Okay, now that note right there is E, so I'm playing the root, the third, the fifth, and if you know anything about your theory, I'm actually adding in the seventh right there. And then I'm going to the root, third, fifth again. So I've essentially taken the same idea, but I've added in one new color note, which is the seventh, but I'm adding it in again from this creative soloing aspect of playing 2-1-2 patterns. Now check this out. So I've got 7, 5, and then 4 and 7. There's a 2 pattern. 5, there's a 1 pattern. And then 3 and 7. And there's my 2 pattern. Now watch this. On the bottom, instead of just starting on the E there, I want to spice this up by making it into a 2 pattern. I'm going to add in the note C. So now I've got... Now the C would actually be the fourth, which is a little bit awkward. And again, if you don't know your theory, don't worry about it. I'm more concerned with you thinking about what it looks like and what it sounds like. There's our E. Now I might take and play that. And then drop into one of my other ideas, right? So I'm not just playing arpeggios all the time around the fretboard, but if I am going to play them, I'm trying to find a way to creatively make it, again, using all the other tools we've been talking about since the beginning of this workshop, using some intervals, some dynamic contrast. Now we're using these 2-1-2 patterns, right, to make the interval sound a little more interesting, but all the while trying to make the pattern itself comfortable, functional for your fingers. Okay, now when I do that, I'm starting on the note C, but please understand that that doesn't make that my root or anything. It's just a note that I'm playing from the scale itself. Because I can make it sound however I want in terms of emphasis, but that's a whole other kind of conversation there. But oftentimes when we're learning, we think that just because we're starting with a note, that means that's what key we're in or what chord we're trying to emphasize. And that doesn't necessarily mean that at all. I can certainly start with that C. I'm just not emphasizing that note C. See, as I play it, if I come out of that and I emphasize an E, all of a sudden it begins to sound more like E minor. And remember, if I leave that C off, I am playing E minor. I'm just adding that C for color.
Awesome, dude.
Yeah. Well, and okay, so if you got any questions, we'll talk about it, and then I'm going to show you something that's really cool that doesn't require any extra effort at all.
Okay. Yes. Let me ask a couple questions.
Sure.
We've talked about, he just mentioned the 2-1-2 pattern. If you're confused about what that means, basically it just means 2 notes per string or 1 note per string. There's an entire workshop on that. You can go to the playlist and check that out on the Creative Soloing playlist. We talked about meandering, which is a whole nother concept. We talked about phrasing. We talked about creative skill patterns. We've talked about intervallic soloing and dynamic contrast. And now we're talking about these arpeggios. One question I see, Steve, is do you have to, hold on, let me get this right. The question is, do you have to play, I think essentially the question is, do you have to play all the notes up the arpeggio? Or can you just play say 3 strings or 2 strings? Do you have to play a...
No. Of course you can play anything you like. The goal is the visualization. That's the goal. It's being able to visualize the pattern. You can play as little or as much of it as you choose, right? Because again, coming up very soon here, we've got a workshop on escape routes. What I'm always thinking about, let me say that slower so you know what I just said, escape routes or escape routes, wherever you're from in the world, right? Okay. I always think about getting into something and then getting out of something. That's the goal. If I'm just playing a pattern or a lick or whatever, I'm going to get stuck at some point. So I'm always thinking about an escape route or an escape route, how I can get out of that or how I can get into that. So if I was playing an E minor, right there I'm in.
You're in your...
I'm in the 2-1-2 I just showed you.
Okay.
Because now I could go, I could hit right into there. You see, it's sitting right there. 3, 5, or excuse me, 3, 7, 5, 4, 7, 5, 3, 7. I can see it sitting right there. So when I'm playing, right there I lock in and I'm ready to go. Or right there I lock in, but I'm on the wrong finger.
Mm-hmm.
You see? That's going to screw up what I'm trying to do over there because I'm on the wrong finger. Again, I'm giving away all the escape route stuff, but you get it. So if I wound up on this finger, I would wind up doing what we talked about in the last workshop and going into another 2-1-2 pattern. I'm always aware of what finger I'm on and where I land, of what my available options are at that point in time, you see?
Mm-hmm.
So if I was playing an E minor, and I'm here, right there on that third finger, I could head over into what we're talking about now. Or I could have head into what we talked about in the last workshop.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always conscious of the options that I have available to me depending on how... See, if I wound up on this finger, I can't work over there. Does that make sense?
Yes. Makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. So you always have to be aware, even though you're working on a particular idea, if you don't wind up on the proper finger on the proper fret, it's going to be hard to execute that idea.
Right.
So for whoever it was that asked that question, you can move into it any string you want. You can sift into it, but you have to be aware that you're trying to make your way into it. Now, if you're just starting the phrase off with it, you could start it anywhere you want. You might go... See what I did there? So at some point, I shifted out of that arpeggio that I'm showing you right now. Right here, boom, I'm now shifted out. So now what do I want to do? I could play the scale. I could play the 2-1-2. Right? I could go into whatever I want at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of one of the most important things about this course that we're getting into in our workshops here at this point is understanding all the tools that we've been talking about are leading to this idea that as you get more creative and you're now, like we talked about it very early on in the workshop, you want to be aware of what finger you're on, right? You want to be aware of the places that are most comfortable for you to slide on the fretboard. All these things we talked about earlier on in the workshop, now you're seeing them come to light as you start adding these more, I mean, we can call them elaborate or advanced or whatever you want to call them, but these other ideas on top, you know, if I just go, well, then I'm done. There's nothing else for me to do. I finished the pattern, I ran out of strings, and I got nothing else to do. Right. So I've got to learn how to shift out of this thing. I might play the whole pattern. Now I'm on my pinky. So what am I going to do? Well, logic says I'll probably come down that way because I have available fingers over here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have anything available here.
Gotcha.
Right? So you become aware of that when you're playing. Whenever you're moving around, I'm constantly shifting my positions depending on what my mind is telling me that I want to do. If I shift down, again, if I shift down here with my first finger, I've got these fingers available, right? If I'm here and I shift down, I've got these fingers available. And I know it seems like a logical thing, like people might look at it and go, well, that's logical. It is, but you need to have something prepared when that happens. Or you want to start learning how to shift on the proper finger. So the next idea that you've got is now easily accessible when you're soloing. Because that's one of the reasons why I found people don't realize they run out of ideas. They're playing the right lick or they're playing whatever they want, but they're not setting themselves up for the next motion.
From a hand position standpoint.
Yes, absolutely. Because that's the whole point of what we're doing here. It isn't really about whether it's a C major 7 add 9 arpeggio, which it is, if you know what that is, or an E minor 7 arpeggio. It's not about that. It's about the proper fingering to create something that sounds unique to the ear, it feels good to the fingers, and ultimately sets you up for the availability of shifting into something else that's creative.
Right. That makes a ton of sense. Man, one thing that occurred to me as you were playing is that, remember those old Hot Licks VHS videos you and I used to watch a million years ago?
Oh, yeah.
I remember getting those, waiting. You had to order them out of the back of Musician's Friend magazine or whatever, or catalog or whatever, mail it in and you send them your check or whatever. And send them your beer money, that you saved up in your check, and they send you the old VHS and you're like ripping into it like a monkey on a cupcake, and you put it in the VHS and you press play and you're like, I can't wait to learn all of, Marty Friedman's tricks and hacks and whatever. And then about 10 minutes into it, you like want to smash your head into the TV because you realize that this guy is a great player. I'm not picking on Marty. I don't even remember if he's a good teacher or not, but you get to a point where you're like, wow, like this guy can play, but he hasn't really thought out how to explain this to another human being of what he's doing. Right. He's just like, and you're like, can you break that down in the smallest element? And I want to read to you a comment. This gentleman's name is Paul. He says, Steve, you break it all down to the ridiculous, which makes you such a great teacher. He says, man, I could keep watching you for hours on end. I watch everything that has Steve Stine's name on it. Thanks, and keep up the good work. That's an awesome comment, Paul. Really appreciate that. But Steve, I think the great one of the reasons you have such incredible success as a player and a teacher is that you have that ability to take something that's really complicated and break it down into its smallest component and explain it in a way that pretty much anybody can understand. Because as I'm watching you weave all of these things together, the meandering and the phrasing and the dynamic contrast and the 2-1-2 patterns and the 1-2-3 patterns and the arpeggios and everything, it's just like, that's the thing that great players oftentimes can't really explain what they're doing. And you have that unique element in that not only you can do it, but you can say, and here's a 4-bar phrase, and let me break it down to you in each bar, like each measure, each technique, and that way people can latch onto it.
Right. Well, I appreciate that. And I just want everybody to understand that when I'm telling you these things and when I'm explaining these things, it's not that I'm negating the importance of theory, right? Or the importance of technique or knowing what goes into arpeggio. It's not about any of those things. I think all of those things are important. But again, I don't think you have to lump 17 things into the same little square that you're trying to learn. Like right now, the goal is understanding how to move around the fretboard, how to make the fretboard sound more creative, how to connect ideas from one idea to the next. The thought process of why it's working or what it is and things like that, I think those are really important. It's just what I have found with a lot of players is if that's where the brain goes to first, the music doesn't always get a chance to come out. And with music is really supposed to be for the ears, not for the eyes. Right? We live in a video age, a digital age where everything's about watching things. But there was a time when we listened. And the whole thing about playing is that I think so many people are waiting to get to some certain level before they can actually learn how to play. Like they have to know a certain amount of information, or they have to have studied a certain amount of, spent some number of hours of playing scales or something. And none of that is true. It's all important. It's all important. But there's no reason why you can't learn how to make music creatively without having learned all of that first. It all can kind of work hand in hand along the journey, as much or as little of each one of those things as you want. You think of people like Eddie Van Halen, who admittedly can't tell you anything about anything when it comes to logic, but he plays amazing, right? And that doesn't make him better than the player that knows what they're doing. It's never about comparisons. I'm just saying that I think it's very feasible to learn how to play creatively, learn how to solo, make your phrasing sound authentic, make your playing sound authentic, and not have overanalyzed every single thing that you possibly could do with that situation before you actually try to do it.
Yeah.
You learn to play while you're learning about playing, if that makes sense. You learn to play while you are learning about playing.
That's right.
You know?
You learn by doing.
Yeah. And that's what I want people to do is if you can turn on a jam track and you can, in E minor or whatever key you're soloing in, right? And you can learn whatever it is you want out of this guitar, whatever sounds it is you want to try and squeeze out of this thing, you're getting closer to the accomplishment of being able to do that, right? By looking at your fretboard in a different way instead of and even that can be very musical in its own place, right? I mean, there's nothing like in the beginning, we talked about how to try and make our scales not sound like we're just playing a scale.
Right.
Well, at some point, we come back around to the fact that being able to do that is part of the game. It's part of this whole thing. We can make the scale just sound like we're playing a scale, but the difference is we're not doing that because it's the only tool we have. It's the only knowledge we have. We've learned about meandering. We've learned about all these other things and how to get creative. And now, all of a sudden, when we go back to playing that scale like a scale, it sounds creative.
Right.
You see? So it kind of brings it full circle.
I love it. Awesome, dude. What else you got for us, man?
Well, I think, I was going to show you the one secret little thing here that's super cool.
Yeah.
So if I was to take this thing that I just showed you, playing 3, 7, 5, 4, 7, 5, 3, 7. Now I'm in E minor / G major, right? If I took that exact same thing and I moved up to the 10th fret and did the exact same thing. That will work in E minor / G major, okay? When I say E minor / G major, I mean the key of E minor or the key of G major, which are relative major and minor. And if you know any modes, it fits into all that. But so I would wrap both those ideas, the exact same shape, I would wrap that with other stuff around it, right? But I'm able to visualize those two shapes. So it's a really great way of, think about G in your head. Sounds really nice. If we had E minor. See, again, it sounds really nice. So it's not always about, like, I meet a lot of players that when they're on E minor, they play an E minor arpeggio, or when they're on G major, they play a G major arpeggio. There's nothing wrong with those. That's absolutely legitimate. The problem is if you're always just doing that, you're losing the color. Like, there isn't as much color going on. So, and that's a whole other conversation in itself. I'm just telling you that it's okay to get out of that box and make arpeggios that are more creative sounding.
That sounds super cool. Now, I'm sorry, the connection there, the big aha was that the pattern is the same. Is that right?
The pattern's exactly the same. It's exactly the same. I'm just moving from C up here to G.
Got it.
If you think of it from the first note, from where you're...
Okay, yeah.
Right, from a visual perspective, not from a theory perspective. So if I was in E, I can go to the C here and play that shape. And I can go up to G and play that same shape.
And it works over E minor or G major.
Yeah, or any mode of that nature, right? I mean, if you knew your modes, it'd work with any of those. Because again, you're not emphasizing any one note.
Right.
You're not playing this arpeggio so the notes correlate with the chord. You're playing it because it sounds creative.
Got it.
It's when you come out of that arpeggio, what do you do next that's going to tie it into whatever chord you might be on at that point in time?
Yeah. Fascinating. Good stuff. Guys, if you've enjoyed this, please subscribe and hit the notify button to get notified of when we're going to be doing another creative soloing workshop session. If you missed any of the previous ones, they're available for you on the channel. Just go to the playlist called Creative Soloing. You can watch all of them there. We've already done meandering, phrasing, intervallic soloing, creative scale patterns, dynamic contrasts, and now today was arpeggios for creative guitar solos. If you've enjoyed this, I would encourage you to go to guitarzoom.com and check out Steve's new course. All of this stuff that we've talked about is all related to that course, broken down for you step by step. It's called Creative Soloing by Steve Stine, available for you at guitarzoom.com. What else, buddy?
I think that's enough for this one.
I do too, man.
Yep.
Good stuff. Thank you very much for being here, Steve. It's always a pleasure, a highlight of my day to hang out with you. Guys, thank all of you, of course, for being here. If you got something out of this, please subscribe and maybe share this with somebody that you think might be able to benefit. That would be cool. And we'll see you on the next session. Thanks for being here.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Take care and stay positive. Keep practicing.
Nice.